Last week, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin had an interview with Hugh talking about how to get out the vote. It was pitch perfect. The Commonwealth goes to the polls tomorrow. Here is that interview.
Good morning, Governor. How are you?
I'm great, Hugh, and we're excited about the next 8-day sprint to November 7th. We got a ton of momentum, and we're just working to finish the work, holding the House, flipping the Senate, and getting moving for Virginia.
I want to talk to people about early voting. I've already voted. The fetching Mrs. Hewitt's already voted. How has your early vote campaign gone, Governor?
I think it's gone really well. I mean, we first had to make it clear that it's okay to vote early. And in fact, with a 45-day early voting season that I inherited, we're going to make full advantage of it. And we got to get Republicans off the sidelines. You know, Hugh, we had 500,000 people that voted for Jason Miyares, Winsome Sears, and me in 2021 that didn't come back and vote in the midterms, congressional midterms in 2022. And so we got to get those folks off the sidelines. I think we've done really well doing exactly that with both mail-in and early voting. Everything's tight, as you can imagine. These are purple districts we're trying to flip. And I feel good about our momentum, but we've got a ton of work to do in these last 8 days.
Now, Governor, I've told people this is a choice for Virginia, whether it wants to be a wealthy, prospering, growing state or whether it wants to stagnate. That's what you're running on. The left is running on abortion. How do you persuade people, look, we're going to deal with abortion in a way that reflects the fact that this state is a purple state, but we're also going to grow and we're going to reform our education system and we're going to take care of our university. I mean, how do you thread that needle?
Well, I think we first just run straight at it, which is to be clear that what the progressive left is doing is trying to sell fear. That's all they've got. And, of course, we represent hope, and hope beats fear every day of the week. And on abortion, they want to extend abortion rights all the way up through and including birth. And that's just way too extreme. And we have brought people together around a bill to protect life at 15 weeks when a baby can feel pain, with exceptions for rape and incest, and when the mother's life is at risk. We're locked up as a Republican Party around delivering that. It's about no limits, which they want, versus reasonable limits, which the Republicans are going to deliver. And then we can bring people together around one of the most difficult issues in America and move forward and really get job growth on the front of the agenda, and tax cuts, and streamlining regulations, and standing up for parents like we've done in Virginia, and raising expectations of excellence in our schools, and back in the blue, and delivering for Virginians. And I have to say that common sense conservative policies work. We've gone from near the bottom of job growth to 230,000 more Virginians working today than just 22 months ago. In fact, we're number 3 in the nation in job growth during that time period. It works. We're moving. We just need to hold the House and flip the Senate so we can get into overdrive.
Governor, I want to talk to you about our education system, starting at the higher education system. I'm astonished and alarmed by the amount of anti-Semitism which has displayed itself in full, no hiding, across the United States. But I have not seen any stories out of the University of Virginia, William & Mary, other state-supported institutions. Is this problem a Virginia problem as well as at my alma mater and yours? Is it a problem like it is at Northwestern and at Davis and other places like that? Have the anti-Semites come out?
Well, we first begin with the universal condemnation of the terrorist act that Hamas perpetrated. They invaded Israel. They murdered 1,400 Israeli Jews, women and children, in ways that are beyond imagination, Hugh. And so that is the very first step. This is not about a debate around a political solution of one state versus two states. This is about a terrorist act that was committed by a terrorist group. And yes, we are seeing anti-Semitism across the Commonwealth like we are across the country. I have stood firm against it and condemned it. I've been pleased that our university presidents have come out and condemned it. And this is the way we have to stand together. There is no room for hate. I mean, I started our administration with a anti-Semitism executive order in order to bring people together to combat hate, and we just have to continue to do it. I have to say that I understand that the Muslim community is also worried about backlash here, Hugh, and so we've got to step back and first remove the hate speech, particularly the anti-Semitic hate speech, from not just our college campuses, but from all over. Recognizing the First Amendment is something that we are going to protect. People have the right to gather, but there is no room for hate in the Commonwealth or the country.
Now, the Board of Visitors runs the University of Virginia. I'm not familiar with the other systems, whether at George Mason or James Madison and all the other fine universities. Are they all governed independently, Governor, or do you stay in touch with all of the various boards at all of the various universities?
Well, they each are governed independently with their own Board of Visitors, and over a 4-year period, I appoint the entire board. We're about halfway through that process in our first 2 years, and I stay in close contact with these boards of visitors, and it's really important that they are actively engaged in the aspects of the schools. Now, the reality is that the presidents, of course, run these schools, and I've felt that there has been a real strong statement from some of them with regards to condemning the terrorist act. But this is a constant reality that we have faculty at these universities that I sometimes question what they're teaching. For students to have the reckless statements that they've had about who's at fault here. I mean, again, this is not a debate around a one-state or two-state solution for the Middle East. This was a terrorist act against women and children where literally children were decapitated and buried. I mean, this is just horrific stuff. And so we have to wholeheartedly condemn it and stand strong for Israel.
Now, Governor, let's turn to secondary education. You've got a lot of the agenda done, and Attorney General Mayares, and I heard Lieutenant Governor Sears talk about this as well, but you need the legislature to back you up on education reform. Do the people in the swing districts that will decide who controls the state Senate and the state House understand that education excellence is on the ballot if they vote Republican and stagnation if they vote Democrat in the Commonwealth?
Hugh, I believe they do, and I think that's why education continues to be one of, if not the top issue in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Of course, we were ground zero back in 2021 when the entire Parents Matter movement started here in Virginia and spread across the country. And it continues because we've still got an enormous amount of work to do. And yes, we hold our House and we flip our Senate. We can continue to press forward with an agenda to stand for excellence in education and to empower parents and to make sure that our children get the education they deserve. Hugh, we recently rolled out a massive statewide tutoring program for our 3rd through 8th graders in order to combat learning loss because the schools were shut for so long. We were 44th in the nation in getting our kids back into school. And
wow.
Of course, our 3rd through 8th graders suffered the most. It is deep, it's persistent, and we've got to combat it. That's what's on the ballot, a forward-looking agenda in order to make sure that Virginia schools are the best in the nation. Or the other side was just selling fear, and I think hope beats fear every day of the week.
Governor, where I ran into Lieutenant Governor Sears was at the American Legislative Exchange Council. They put out this Rich States, Poor States book every year, and I talk about it all the time. Rich states are those with low tax rates that are attracting jobs. Virginia's kind of in the middle at 5.5% income tax and a variety of other taxes. What's the tax reform agenda if you are supported by a Republican Senate and a Republican State House?
Well, over the last 2 years, we have delivered on what we promised, which was $5 billion of tax relief. And yet the progressive left in the Senate continued to block us. I mean, even this budget that I put in and then signed in September, which was 7 months late, their first offer was no tax relief and to spend our entire surplus. And so this continues to be a battle to provide tax relief, necessary tax relief, in a state where the government has historically way overtaxed Virginians, and we should be a lower tax jurisdiction, and that's what we're working on. We need a Senate to help us get that done. I think we've done a great job given the split legislature, but we can do so much more because for 9 straight years, Hugh, more Virginians moved away than moved here from the other 49 states. We've seen that shift just in the last year as we have gone to work on cost of living and empowering parents and standing up for schools and back in the blue and all the common sense conservative things that make states successful. But we have so much more we can do, and that's why I'm asking Virginians, trust me, I'm going to go to work for you. We're going to deliver. I just need your vote. I need to hold our House and flip our Senate.
Let's talk about backing the blue, Governor. Across the river from me, there is chaos in the District of Columbia. Carjackings are going to hit 1,000 this year. The murder rate is astonishing. When you say backing the blue, what does the state have to do with how local police is supported in local cities and counties?
Well, it first starts with a universal statement that we are going to support you and not condemn you and demean you. That's the first step. But then we followed that up with strong budgetary actions, with record investment in salaries and training and equipment. We followed it back up with another round of support for raises for our sheriff's departments. And so that's the second big thing. And then third is we've gone to work on making sure that they have the tools in their toolkit to do what they need. Our Attorney General has been great running something called Operation Ceasefire, which brings in jointly badged prosecutors with the U.S. Attorney's Office to prosecute, and particularly in jurisdictions where the Commonwealth's attorneys don't prosecute and law enforcement feels wildly undermined. I mean, listen, there are still Soros-backed Commonwealth's attorneys in Virginia that are choosing not to prosecute. And in fact, one of the folks that worked in those offices is running for Senate in Loudoun County again, and she didn't prosecute. And this is part of the challenge that we've got, is that I'm not sure that folks fully understand that part of our challenge in law enforcement is that we have elected officials backed by folks like George Soros who aren't prosecuting folks that have Loctite cases put together by our law enforcement officials, and that undermines and demeans them. Our job is to make sure that they are supported, well-funded, and in fact, folks that commit crimes where there are good cases that can be prosecuted, that need to serve time. This is what a law and order society is all about. That's what we're doing in Virginia, but we still have a lot of headwinds, and that's why, again, Hugh, this election is so important that we, in fact, hold our House and flip our Senate.
Very last question, Governor. Preparing for the debate with my moderating colleagues up at NBC and the NBC team, I've told them about the First Lady's One Pill Can Kill campaign, and it was news to most people. And that's unfortunate because I think it's very effective. Does the legislature support her and you in that campaign? Because it can save lives of kids who are on the internet just trying to get a Xanax, not realizing it's a fentanyl-laced Xanax and can kill them.
Yeah, sadly, no. The liberal left Senate blocked our bill last year that would, in fact, charge dealers who deal drugs that kill people with a felony homicide and put them in jail for a long time. They chose to back drug dealers over victims, and I believe that this should be a stiff penalty if you're dealing drugs that kill people. And yes, every day on average, we have 5 Virginians who die from fentanyl overdose. We've got to put a stop to this. You know, it starts at the border with an open border, but it flows into every state that's now a border state. We've seen the intrusion of drugs and gangs, and we've got to stop it.
Good luck, Governor Youngkin, on November 7th. Virginia can decide to go forward and vote for Republicans to support the governor or go backwards and keep the Democrats in power. Thank you, Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia.